Welcome to another episode of the Wholesale Elite Podcast. I am Isham and I'm joined by my main man, Mr. Tanner Santucci. What up, dude?
What to do, dog?
Man. Guys, we got another lady in. We've been wanting to get more women's stories and voices here because there's plenty of them crushing it. And not only do we just have one of them, we have one of the leading people who has been doing agent outreach, before everyone else, Ryan Zola and all these other guys. But we are joined today by Miss Eva Sazo. How are you, Eva?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. It's an honor to finally have you on here. I've been seeing you all over social. I mean, you've got a massive TikTok following and your videos are great. Your journey through real estate has been so cool to watch. You be a traveling nomad who's been killing this. So I can't wait to dive into your story more. How are you?
I'm doing good. No longer traveling. I bought a house. So
hey,
now I'm stationary. If I travel, it's going to be by plane.
No more driving the Sprinter around the world.
Oh man, it wasn't even a Sprinter. It was a 45-foot long toy hauler, and we pulled 2 dogs and a pig along in the back, and it was a lot of work.
Oh my gosh, 2 dogs and a pig. Well, I'm gonna write that down.
Right?
We're gonna come back to that. Well, Eva, let's get started because just a little insight about our podcast. We like to really kind of dive into mindset and really dive into your story because I think that the things that happened to us growing up really leads us to who we are today. As adults, working in our careers, and so you are clearly a hustler. You're someone who probably, I think that we're going to find during our talk, people probably didn't think you were going to get to where you are right now, and so I cannot wait to hear the story of your background because from what I've seen in social, it's fascinating. So I'd love to start off with the origin story. Tell us about where you're from and what your family life was like kind of growing up.
Oh man, we're gonna go back, huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I was born and raised in Cali. So Northern California, not LA. I know everyone wants to think LA. We're not. I'm not that cool. Sorry, guys. But I grew up, born and raised California. I come from a very big family, but all of my family is a bit of the let's do things not the right way.
I got it.
So, my parents went in prison when I was a kid. I lived with my grandma. I had a very hard life as a kid. Eventually, my parents kind of get their things together. I live with them. My dad doesn't get out of prison until I'm about 12. When he does get out of prison, though, he's the one who introduced me to wholesaling without me ever actually knowing it because he was a bird dog. So he had partnered with an agent and an investor, and he was out there knocking doors, but he also had a construction background. So not only was he finding the deals and then getting paid for it, he was fixing and flipping the houses. So that's kind of a little bit of my peek into my childhood, and then how I even got into this business without knowing it.
Wow. Well, I want to dive back into the childhood a little bit. I know that it sounds like it's fraught with a bunch of interesting stories, and we don't have to go too personal. But again, I really believe that it's good for people to relate. Because there's probably a young woman or a man who can relate to your story right now in their life. This is where they are at. And so to hear that you have faced that adversity and you've gotten to where you're at right now is a testimony. And so I'd love to just shed a little more light on that. So because at some point, it's not like everyone who grows up in a tough upcoming makes it. The odds are heavily stacked against you. What was what was it that allowed you to stay focused, to kind of stay out of trouble, and to seek the path of abundance versus scarcity?
Um, that's a great question. I don't, I couldn't tell you for sure other than the fact that I didn't ever want to be what my parents were.
Mm.
That's what kind of drove me. I watched my mom struggle. She had three girls by three different men, and we were on welfare, WIC, Section 8, everything that you could imagine, we had it. She never had like the best relationships with men. So she, went through a lot in order to get us to where we did. But I'll tell you what, she tried real hard, but all three of her daughters are not very fond of her. And to see her struggle and to go through all that and then have her kids not really like her. And it's just like, I never wanted to be that person. I don't want to be that mom. I don't want to struggle like that. I don't want to have to not be able to pay my bills. I mean, we boiled water on the barbecuer to have hot baths. You know, my mom borrowed money from other people in order for us to get food. We went to food closets. We somehow, some way though, she was always able to buy us things that we didn't need, like Nike shoes. I don't know why I always had Nike shoes, but we did. And I don't, today, if I was poor, I would be like, we're not buying Nike shoes.
Right.
We'll go to Goodwill. Yep. But for some reason, my mom was like, we'll go to the food closet, but get Nike shoes. And so that's the kind of mindset I grew up with. So, having to grow up with that and then become an adult and start a business, like that stuff's really hard. And you have to do a crap ton of mindset work to overcome that kind of stuff. Because I don't know how else to explain it, but subconsciously, having Nike shoes but not being able to get food is okay. Having food stamps and buying groceries with food stamps, but then buying Nike shoes is okay when you grow up like that. But in reality, that's just not cool.
Right.
That's not okay. You should be able to buy your own food and your Nike shoes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that makes sense. I think there's a saying, and I'm probably going to blow this, but it said, you're either pulled by your purpose or you're pushed by pain, into, out of the mess that you're in. And, it's one or the other. And so you're seeing this, and at some point, I'm assuming maybe like later on, teenagehood or whatever, you decide, all right, I got to get my stuff together. Like, did you go straight into real estate? Did you have some jobs? Like, what did you do, between teenagerhood and now?
Yeah, obviously, growing up the way I did, I had to be an adult before I really wanted to be an adult, or, I knew no other way. So I raised both my sisters, basically. I walked them to school every day. I bathed them. I made sure they ate. I was their mom. And so because of that, when I left my mom at 15, I decided that I wanted to graduate high school early, get a state job, get custody of my sisters. So I did all of that by the time I was 18 years old. But my sisters decided that they wanted to be with who, like the court lets you choose when you're a certain age. And one of them decided they wanted to be with their dad, and the other one decided that they wanted to stay with their mom. So I let them do what they wanted to do. And so I didn't end up having to raise two kids.
Sure.
So because of that, I was already out of high school, graduated, had a state job. Then I decided I wanted to go into the medical field, did that, got my medical certificate, became a medical assistant, did the whole medical thing, decided I hated it. Decided that wasn't for me. And then I became an entrepreneur. I ran a marketing agency for 5 years, maybe.
Wow.
And then I also flipped iPhones overseas. And that was really good. But then 2020 happened and all the stores closed. So I could not flip iPhones overseas anymore.
Where were you flipping these overseas, just out of curiosity?
Dubai and Russia and places that you're not supposed to send them to.
Okay, very good.
And so then we'd flip them over there. We'd get, because they pay twice as much. So it was
Interesting.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Why? But I don't know. That's just how it works. And so then, and then the marketing agency closed down as well in 2022. I actually did marketing for a lot of real estate agents and gym professionals. And a lot of them started freaking out when 2020 happened. They started cutting unnecessary expenses. I happen to be one of those. So.
Interesting.
Wow.
With the marketing agency, like, so fun fact, before I got in real estate, it was a choice of, am I going to start a medical marketing agency or am I going to wholesale? That was literally the fork in the road for me in my career. And it was an easy, choice for me because I'd always wanted to get in this, but the timing just lined up. But anyways, I don't meet a lot of people that have marketing agency experience. Where did that come from? Because you don't just start a marketing agency.
Or do you?
So
yeah,
or do you?
Well,
so during that time of becoming like, when I was a medical assistant, I had actually become friends with a gal who was selling, she was like in an MLM, and we were selling makeup and stuff like that. And so that is kind of what got me into the marketing agency, because I was like, okay, let me do this MLM. And then I realized, oh, this MLM is just marketing. So I had to figure out
100%.
marketing. And then after I was like, I don't want to do this MLM, but I know marketing. And then she would refer me to other people and be like, hey, this girl like knows a lot about marketing. And so then other people started picking me up and they're like, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And I'm like, oh, we'll figure it out. And that's how it happened. Because at first I didn't know. They were like, can you run Facebook ads? And I was like, sure.
Yes.
Why not? Of course I can. Of course I can. I had no idea what I was doing.
That's an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a Tanner ready, fire, aim guy.
Kick the door in, figure it out later. Yep.
We'll figure it out. Just say yes and start Googling a whole,
that's what it
dive
is.
deep. Yep.
It's Gary Vee method. Gary Vee always talks about that, where it's like school is almost irrelevant now, because once you get out of school, you can just Google. There's Google. So.
Oh my God. Now you got Chat GPT or GPT. They just GPT, it's over there just answering all kinds of things for you.
College professors are going to be pulling their hair out soon.
Oh my gosh.
All their essays are going to start looking very similar to all the students. So.
Oh my God. That's the first thing I thought of, plagiarism. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, that's how that gets worse.
I want to jump back into the story and just get a better understanding. Okay, so you start the marketing agency, you're flipping iPhones, COVID happens, but you said that your dad was a bird, a bird dogger, and what happened after the iPhone flipping stopped and the marketing agency went away?
So that's March of 2020. It's honestly, I remember it being March 13th of 2020. Because I was sitting at a cafe with my friend, and this was in Vegas when I had moved to Vegas, and we were just catching up, and my cousin had called me and it was like, we got to cancel the Airbnb, everything, because we had all planned to go as a big family to Disney for my cousin's daughter's birthday, which I'm super close with my cousin. She's like my sister. So I was like, all right, let's all book an Airbnb. So I booked an Airbnb for us. We were all going. She calls me, we got to cancel it. Everything's closing down. The world is ending. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And in that same day, not only did I have to cancel an Airbnb and our Disney trip, but all my clients started blowing me up. And then the news started going, and Best Buy was closing. The Apple store was closing. And I was just like, oh my God. So then for a couple months, there was nothing to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, crap, money's going to run out at some point. I got to figure something out. And I was just on TikTok, and I was just scrolling through TikTok, and there goes Kong.
Yep.
I found Kong, and I was like, wait a minute, why does this sound so familiar? Like, what is this guy talking about? And I started watching more and more of his videos, and I go, oh my God, I think this is what my dad used to do. I bought Kong's course.
Wow.
Nothing to say.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
And the rest is history. It just, it was a trickle effect. Obviously, I don't do any of Kong's methods. That didn't work for me.
He's a character. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, no, he got me real quick.
Yeah. Well, you said you don't do any of his methods, and we talked a little bit about the agent outreach, and I just want everyone to know, especially those of you who are familiar with our podcast, we talk about our community of Astro a lot, but one of the major marketing methods is through agents, right? And so we connect with agents through agent outreach, and we can go for off-market properties or on-market. You were literally one of the first who started doing that. Talk about how that happened, because, those of us that are in that world now, we just kind of do it because that's how we were taught. It made sense. But what made you realize, oh, this is the way to go with no blueprint?
So being an Astro, we all know that Jamil is very co-wholesaling heavy, whether that be with another wholesaler or an agent. Obviously, he talks way more now about doing it with agents than he used to. In the very beginning, it was all wholesaler, wholesaler, wholesaler. And I started to do that, but sometimes when you're talking to another wholesaler and neither one of you know what you're doing, it's a little bit more difficult.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, this isn't any easier for me than it was calling like direct sellers, going direct to seller. When I was calling them, they'd like, they were kind of mean, or it was just I was trying to convince them of something. And I'm not that kind of person. I don't want to sit here and have a conversation where I'm trying to convince you of something. I'd just rather get to business. Like, let's just talk business. I'm very direct. Let's move forward. But working with other wholesalers who didn't know what they were doing, and I was new, I didn't really know what I was doing. We were just fluff in the air. I don't know. Sure. Nothing was coming of it. And I was just like, this is not great. I don't like this. I think I'm just going to quit. I don't know how my dad did it. I don't want to knock on doors. So I was kind of like, yeah, no, I don't think so. But I kept coming to Jamil's Zooms and things like that, because I was like, I know that a lot of money can be made here. Something can happen. So I kept watching, and he kept talking about Monique. And I was like, wait a minute, who the heck is Monique? Like, who is this Monique? So, and then he would talk about like Facebook ads and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I know how to do Facebook ads. And who's Monique? Like, give me some more information. So every time I got on a Zoom, I was competing with everybody else in the comments, like, who is Monique? What do you know about Facebook ads? And eventually more information came out, and I was like, okay, Facebook ads doesn't sound like you know a lot about it. You don't want to do it because Jamil sells $0 marketing, no marketing at all. So I was like, okay, throw Facebook ads out the window. And then I was like, more like, Monique, tell me Monique. He starts to talk more about Monique. Monique is the real estate agent that he partners with, that he's done millions of dollars with over the last years, that keeps bringing him deals. The thing is about Monique is that he's made like a best friendship with her.
Sure.
And she cold calls for him, basically.
Right.
So after I kind of figured that out, I was like, I don't know that I can find an agent to do that for me. But I'm related to a bunch of agents in California. Maybe I can get my cousins to do it or something. So I started talking to my cousins. None of my cousins want to do it. All of them are like, I'm not cold calling no one. The heck? And I'm like, forget you guys.
Right.
And so then I'm like, how else can I make this work? Because I want to talk to agents. So Thomas was one of Jamil's old employees who then bought a bunch of Keegleys at one point and was doing trainings on there with everybody and everything like that. And that's how I found him. And I was like, I think I just want to call agents and make offers on properties, but I don't really know how to work these conversations. And Thomas would wake up, or I don't know if he would wake, I don't know what time Thomas woke up, but he would be up at 6 a.m. every day doing comping calls. And so I would jump on at 6 a.m. every day just to watch him. And eventually I just kept sending properties in there. And I wasn't calling agents or anything. I was just sending properties to see what he would say, what numbers he would give me. Was I anywhere close? And eventually he noticed me and he gave me his phone number. And he said, hey, like, you're in here posting at 6 a.m. like 5-6 properties every freaking day. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just looking on Zillow. What are you doing? Like, how do we get these houses? What do we do? And he was like, okay, well, just say this and that and do that. And I was like, okay, fine. So then I would sit there for 12 hours a day and call house after house after house after house, send them to Thomas, tell him what I think the numbers are. He'd tell me if I was right or wrong. Then I'd tell him what the agent said. He'd tell me what I should say back. And we just did this for months. And if you go back and look at Jamil's trainings in Astro, you'll see Jamil come on and start talking about me because Thomas kept popping into the office to talk about me to Jamil. Because I was just blowing up Thomas's phone every day for like 12 hours for like 3 months straight. Like, oh, what about this deal? What about that deal? And that's how it all began.
Well, I think I want to take a second here. I want just to point out something real quick. And I think it's pretty evident early on in this episode where, you're the perfect example of an entrepreneur. And not just because of your background and where you came from, but more or less the action you take and the aim first, or shoot first, figure out everything else out later, because I think a lot of people get stuck in that analysis paralysis rather than, I think a lot of people are going to get value out of this episode already, again, because of what you just said, where you didn't know jack shit essentially. But you still were going in, you were getting up at 6 a.m. to go to calls just to learn. And you weren't even, most people like me, I'll admit it, I wouldn't have even thought to go to Zillow and just start shooting random addresses just to see how they were comping these things. Like Isham always mentions that you have to be super resourceful as an entrepreneur. And for you to think of something like that and just to quickly take action, figure out everything else out later, that's the important things. You put your foot in the door. Guess what happens? You start getting noticed. People start seeing your name around. People start seeing, hey, this girl's she's about her action. Like, she may not know exactly what to do, but you're moving the needle every day. And that's how Thomas noticed you. And now obviously Jamil knows you, of course. But I just wanted to point that out to people that are listening. Like, go put your foot in the door. Figure everything else out later, because the more your name is out there, the more you're taking action, the more you're going to get noticed, and the more people are going to be willing to help you, because they don't see that. Like, I'll keep this brief real quick, but people come to, and I'm sure you know this, of course, but people always come and reach out for help, whether it's to us or other people. And then you give them instruction or maybe give them a little tip or here, you never hear from them again. And so those are the people that you just forget. But the people that keep coming back, keep asking questions, no matter what the question is, I think it's very important. So I had to step in real quick and acknowledge you on that. And I think that's awesome. So,
well, thanks. I agree though. Yeah. Entrepreneurship is not easy.
Nope.
No, you'll hear no's all day long. You're kicked down all the time, and you just have to just tunnel vision. Don't let it phase you. Just keep going.
We're professional firefighters, we're just constantly solving problems. Okay. So you're doing agent outreach. You're just getting started. There's a big concern, like you paved the way, in a lot of respects for this field that people are still struggling in to this day. Yeah. When you were making those initial outreach calls, as a wholesaler looking to acquire lots from an agent, where back then it was real contentious, I say back then, like we're talking in the 80s or something. This wasn't that long ago, No. What were those conversations like? Were you acting like you were a flipper and, all that stuff? Or were you just being straight up and letting them know? Or how did that work in the beginning?
So I'm a fake it till you make it kind of person. Sure. So, well, first off, let me start with this, because this is something that I say on my TikTok a billion times, and something that I say to my own students and to Astro students is that you are an investor. Stop telling people you're a wholesaler. You're not. A wholesaler is not a thing. It's not a job description. It's not a thing. It's something that we made up in the media to make it more simple to understand. But a wholesaler is an action. It's a verb. It's a signing a contract. That's the definition of it. You are not a wholesaler. You are an investor using the exit strategy of wholesale. So stop calling yourself a wholesaler. You are an investor. When you talk to an agent, you're an investor. Your exit strategy is none of their business. You could choose, any investor in this world will decide, oh, I want this property and I'm going to do this. And then the numbers don't make sense, but they still want the property and they pick a different exit strategy. That's exactly what you're doing. You're no different. So stop treating yourself like you're different or you're an imposter or something, because you're not. You're just a beginner. That's it.
Yeah, my job.
Yeah, you're not. You're an investor. Stop saying you're not. So when I call, I'm an investor. I'm an investor. And in the beginning, of course, the things that I said weren't necessarily true. And I would refer to a partner quite often, because even though they weren't really my partner, they were still buying things from me. They were my partner in a way. Sure. And they were fixing and flipping the properties. So, and somehow in some way, I'm involved in that transaction and that thing happening. So that's my partner. I'm part of that transaction. I help fix and flip that property in my head. And to the agent, that's what happened. So I'm a fix and flipper. I'm a buy and holder. I'm an Airbnb. Like, I used to own Airbnb, so I'm an Airbnb investor. I fake it till I make it.
Absolutely.
Somehow, some way, you're intertwined with those kinds of situations. So you're not really lying. You're just spinning the truth of the future.
Yep.
That's it. It's so important that you said that and you made that distinction because gosh, I know, and I've said this story before, when I first started my journey, I learned about wholesaling from a TikTok video like you. It was Paul McComas, and I asked my buddy, sat down and had lunch. I know, RIP. Sat down and had lunch, and I picked this guy's brain. His name was Jesse Stanton. He's one of our first interviews. I was like, Jesse, tell me everything you know about this. And he was telling me the process. And when he got to talking about the contract, and I was like, well, what if you don't find a buyer? And he's like, that's the beautiful thing. We can just cancel out of the contract. And I knew immediately, I was like, that's the pain point. That's the problem that everyone has with this. It's right there. That's got to be it, because that's where there's no downside to doing this. And so that means unscrupulous people are going to come in. They're going to take advantage of that. Like, that's just human nature. I knew that right away. And so I thought that I came up with the genius idea of going buyer first. I was like, what if we just find our buyers first? And then that way we don't have to worry about, ever canceling. And so, man, it's such a powerful story to say that faking it till you make it. You say fake it till you make it. And I've said that for a long time, but what I'm also learning is it's, faking it. Yes. But you're also just rewiring your circuitry in your brain. You're having a better understanding for the macro sense and in the sales conversation of what it is you're actually doing. Right. So like you said, wholesaling is not, it's a verb. It's what we actually do. It's an exit strategy. It's not a noun. It's not who we are. And so once I rewired my brain, I wasn't faking, I wasn't lying to myself. I really am an investor. I don't have tons of money right now to go, take down a huge project, but I'm in the game. I'm here. And so once I settled around that, I was able to move forward and get deals. But when I was telling myself I was just there was this thing that I'm really not, I'm just trying to convince myself of it. It was a struggle. But the minute I believed, yes, 100%. The minute I believed that I was an investor, I was able to move forward. So I love that you said that. It wasn't a lie. You were just, you were speaking the future in existence right now.
Yeah, no, a wholesaler is just an investor's exit strategy. So you're an investor. There is no such thing as a wholesaler. It's something we made up in the media. Just get rid of your imposter syndrome. There's no such thing as a wholesaler. You're an investor.
Well, look, let's fast forward, because this was, that was in the past, and we are now here. Life is grand. There's no more financial struggles and woes. You just got off a killer vacation. You traveled the world. What are some of the life freedoms that real estate has afforded you now?
I made a post on Instagram couple weeks ago that kind of talks about this, and my life, I don't know, because I want to say my life overall is not different, but in reality it's way fucking different. because my mom never had a $900 a month car payment. Okay, I have a $900 a month car payment. It's ridiculous. And to think, like, my mindset now, I think, oh, that's no big deal, but as a child, huge deal. I never had the nicest Lexus with the red interior seats, and like that wasn't a thing. As a kid, my mom never owned a house. I bought my house. In 20 days, I was sitting in my RV. The whole reason I moved to Orlando is because I basically got divorced, and my ex went back to Vegas, and I was kind of left here with our RV and the truck and the animals, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. And so in 20 days, I said, I'm fucking buying a house. I'm staying in Orlando. So I bought a house. If I didn't have that financial freedom, that would have never been possible. So like, my life is drastically changed choice-wise. I now have the freedom to choose whatever it is I want. I got $200 Yeezys. Like, never in my life would I buy $200 shoes. I would prefer to go buy $13 sandals at Ross, but everybody and their moms swore by Crocs, and I was like, Crocs suck. And then they were like, no, really, Yeezys are the thing. And I was like, well, Yeezys are so hard to get. And so I bit the bullet and bought $200 Yeezys. I'll never buy, I want like 5 pairs of Yeezys. They're the best shoes ever, guys. Forget the Crocs. Yeezys are the most comfortable shoes ever. Okay. But I would never usually buy something like that. That's just like, even with the money I have now, I still consciously really think about those kinds of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Do I really want this car? Do I like, if I buy this car, what are the benefits of buying this car? Do I even really drive the car? No, I hardly ever leave my freaking house. But but getting the car and getting in the car gives me a whole different vibe and belief within myself, and a different level of, it's just a different level.
Sure.
And because of that, I'm able to manifest and continue to build and, you know, move myself up the ladder in that way. If I chose to sit in the hoopty that I had back in 2018, it had no AC, the radio didn't work, the car door handles didn't work, the window didn't work. So you had to crawl to the back of the car to open the door, to open the other door. It was, if I still had that car,
I haven't heard the
I
word
wouldn't feel
hoopty
good
in a
about
minute.
myself. Hoopty. It was a hoopty. It was falling apart on me, poor thing. It was a nice car for that time though.
Okay, man, that's super inspiring. And let me ask, okay, so personal development, because you weren't this way back in the day, and obviously action has kind of pushed you into this person. But are you a reader? Is there a person that you've kind of looked up to along the journey that you followed, or podcasts, or what's been your personal development journey?
Yeah, so I think the whole, like, I don't want to be like my mom has pushed me a lot. So when I do read or hear something inspirational, I grasp onto it very quickly, and I hold on to it and I dissect it, and I think about, how does this apply to me? How do I find more things like this? So I do listen to a lot of stuff. I'm not a big reader. I don't like reading.
Gotcha.
I can't stand reading. And if I do
Sure.
read, I think it has to do with my ADHD.
Same.
Because if I do read,
Agreed.
I have to have the book and the audio at the same time. And I have to have it on like 2.1 times
Yes.
speed. And I'm just going like reading as fast as I can. So reading is not a thing for me, but listening, I'm very audio driven. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
What are some of the podcasts you like?
Let's see.
Yeah, let's
I'll
get
tell
that
you.
list. Other than Wholesale Elite.
Wholesale Elite is one of them. I
It's the
mean,
number one.
for girls, I mean, like, I've got a lot of stuff for girls. Okay. So like one of them's Earn Your Happy. Obviously I listen to like Wholesale Inc., which is basic, but the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I listen to a lot of The Boss Babe. What is that one girl's name? Girly Popcast, if you guys know about Allie on TikTok, she's super cool. I started listening to, of course, I listen to Gary Vee. I listen to The Mommy Millionaire. On purpose, you know, we all love Jay Shetty. Who doesn't, right?
Oh yeah, Jay's the man.
Right?
I love his
He's
book. I Think
amazing.
Like a Monk. It's such a good book. I got it right back here.
It is.
Yeah, I Think Like a Monk.
The Date Yourself Instead podcast. Like a lot of the stuff that I listen to has to do with self-love. Yeah, no, that's not even all of it. I got a really long list. If I named all the podcasts to you, we'd be sitting here for a minute.
How do you handle, because right now at your level of business, do you have a team, or you do mostly
I do.
You do have a team?
No, I have a team. Yeah.
Okay, great. How do you handle setbacks right now in business? Is it something that kind of slows you down, or do you push through it fairly quickly? What's your method for any time an oh shit happens right now in your business?
A lot of hiccups don't happen all that much in business with me because I'm so I fix everything. I'm quick to fix it. I'm quick to hit it head on. I would say the bigger issue is not business wise, but mental wise, because I do struggle with like anxiety and depression and things like that. So with that taking over, I tend to like say, okay, I'm checking out for 2 days kind of thing. And that will have a larger impact on my business than anything that actually happens in the business. Because anything that happens in the business, I'm quick to go, oh, don't worry, I got this. I get on the phone with the agent. I'm just like a no BS kind of person. We're going to fix this and we're going to fix it now. But with mentality, I would struggle more. And I think a lot of people don't talk about how you mentally can affect your business, and not so much what actually happens in the business, but what happens with you. And I think your biggest job is not always working on your business or working in your business. It's working on you. Because if you're not right, your business isn't going to be right. Your business reflects you.
That's good.
Absolutely. Well, real quick, sorry, Isham, real quick, just for the audience and us as well, what does your team look like? And then we'll get back into the mindset behind everything.
So I have 12 virtual people. Virtual. I've now automated a lot of my stuff in the last like 4 to 6 weeks. It's been a little bit spread out because I keep taking vacation and stuff like that. But in the last 4 to 6 weeks, I've kind of learned how to automate a lot of that stuff. So we're not growing anymore. I'm trying to not fire people, but spread them out, because now I need less of them per market. Whereas like if you would look at my wall right now, you would see that I have it set up where it needs like 5 people per market to run my market, but I don't need anymore. Now I need maybe 2. Wow. So because of that, I need to spread my people out thinner, right, and open in more markets faster. So yeah, but I have 12 people altogether right now who work in my 5 markets.
Is that the number one challenge right now in your business? Is how do I create systems and processes for these other people to go into these new markets, or you already have those in place?
No, so I already have my systems and processes in place. The part where I keep changing it a little bit to make it easier and easier is the part where I like, oh, now I got to go back and catch everybody up, and that kind of is a hurdle that we have to jump through. But my system's pretty much clear. Like I teach this on my my mentorship, where I show you how to launch in 45 to 90 days, and it's buyers, relationships. We find the market, analyze the market, understand the market. We find the buyers, they help us understand the market. We find the agents, they help us understand the market, and then we start making offers based on whatever's on Redfin or Privy, and we start going. But you build all that first in your first couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, and then you start making offers. And then about your week 9 is when you've had people take over, and then you move into your next market.
Dang. Man, you legit have like a good system going.
Yep.
That's wild. That's incredible.
It took 3 years.
Yeah, no kidding. What is something this year that you're really, really excited about?
I think now that I'm getting my systems and everything locked, because this is probably the first year that I have like all my employees and my whole business systems locked, I think it's the freedom. And I think that freedom to work on me is what I'm most excited about. Because I had a hard childhood. I just turned 30, like looking at my life and seeing what like I got out of a bad relationship, like looking at all that and seeing where I went wrong and like what I need to fix, and just being excited to like go in and fix all that stuff. Because obviously that's a long journey and that's going to take a while. But to have the freedom to like, I don't have to worry about paying this bill or anything like that, and I can just figure this shit out and get through it, is kind of exciting. Because I'm like, okay, let's fix all this so that we can get to the next level of life. Like, what's next?
That's incredible. Well, I think this is a perfect spot to kind of land the plane. But I do want to ask, and Tanner, I'm sure you've got some closing questions. Feel free to go ham. But I wanted to ask, what's a word of encouragement, inspiration, or whatever? Or if you could just go back and talk to yourself as a wholesaler in the very beginning, what would you tell yourself? You know, like, what are the things that you know now that you wish you would have known then?
I mean, what do I know now that I didn't know then? I don't know. I mean, you got to keep going. Don't compare yourself to others. Keep working hard. You just roll with it. Like, don't give up. Don't get discouraged. It's not meant to be easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. You know, you just got to roll with it and stick in there and push forward. And whatever you're trying to do is going to happen. It's going to happen on your time.
So true. So
Very
true.
good.
Jamil mentioned one time, he was talking about like detaching the timeline from your goals. He's like, I think that's the part that causes so much anxiety and frustration in people. It's not the goal, it's the timeline, the bullshit timeline that they attach to that. It's like, sure, you know, some goals do require timeline, but for the most part, you just set the freaking goal and work towards it. And like you said, don't compare and despair, you know. Yeah, comparison is a thief of joy. All those sayings are accurate. So thank you so much for that word, and thank you for your time. Tanner, what you got, man?
Yeah, I just had a few questions. I'm curious, what's your end goal, or what's your company vision? Like, what's your company's goal? What do you want to build a massive wholesaling company, or do you want to just kind of build it to where you can travel and let it be? Like, what's your company goal?
I want it to be nationwide. I do want us to be pretty big, but I'm not set on us being like astronomically huge. Like, I want to be like a Keegley, but not really. At the same time, I want to have something that I can manage, but also travel all the time. Like, as long as it gives me enough financial freedom, I think I've kind of had the idea of like $3 million a year is good. I think.
Now, is that company
life
profits,
is okay
or is
with
that
that.
Personal income from the company?
That's company profits. That's company profits.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
we don't have much. We don't have much overhead. So.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's the beauty of agent outreach, right?
Right. There's no marketing. It's pretty
one
low.
of the, I mean, this is my last question, but I always like to ask this to entrepreneurs like yourself. And it's for those, what would some advice or a tip, or what would you say to newer wholesalers that are getting into the business that have analysis paralysis? They don't have the confidence, or maybe they don't have the ability, like you have shown, to just kick in the door and say, what's next? Where a lot of people rather hesitate and they overthink, and they cause problems in their own head. What's some advice to those people from your end?
So analysis paralysis is caused by you just absorbing too much information, too much knowledge, and then you're overwhelmed, and then you're in analysis paralysis. You can't do anything. You're frozen. Stop watching every fucking thing. Stop watching everything. Stop listening to everything. Literally take, okay, how do I call an agent? Find out how to call an agent. Do it for a week. Do it for 2 weeks. And then now it's easy for you. I called 500 agents. Like, who cares? They're all the same. Every conversation is almost the same. Now what's the next thing? How do I find a buyer? Okay, we're just going to look at how to find a buyer, call buyers. Oh, it's second nature now. Move on. How do I comp a property? I'm going to comp a property every day for 3 months. No, just bite-sized pieces. Like, stop watching everything. You get in Jamil's course, you got 6 weeks of education. Same thing with mine. You got 6 weeks of education. Don't watch all 6 weeks. You're just so quick to just, I got to know everything now, and I got to go. And then you watch all 6 weeks, and then you're like, oh, fuck. This is way too much.
Where do I start? Yeah.
What do I do now? It's just like, don't do that.
My favorite thing out of that is also what Rocky Sedain says. And I relate to you, and I relate to him a ton on this, which is, like Rocky would say, if he's reading a book, or just like you said, if you need to know something, don't go try to learn it all. Rocky will literally go put on a YouTube video. If there's something he needs to learn, he'll find the little minute or two that it gets talked about, and he'll watch that part, and then he exits out of the YouTube and just goes, takes the action. So I think that's where you truly learn, and that's where you truly build. And I know everyone's got their own ways of doing things. Some people really do like to learn, and that's just before they go as much as they can and soak everything in before they go take action, which is fine. But be self-aware. But I think it's very important. And I think, honestly, that's where the most growth comes from, which you always hear about, is taking the action. But if you can really dial in, how much do I need to learn? Go take that step, fail, or even get past that step. And then it's like the, oh shit, like Isham talked about, when he first locked up his first deal, he locked up that deal before even having a contract. Like, he didn't even have a contract ready to go. And so it was like scramble mode. Okay, now I got to get a contract. Okay, now I get a contract signed. Okay, now what's a title company? Who do I go to? And then you just keep figuring it out. But I think that's where you really find the most success. And I think there's a common theme between successful entrepreneurs, is that you're resourceful, and you, like like I've said a couple of times in this episode, you kick in the door and you just go with the flow. You take the punches, you get knocked down a ton in this business, you get a lot of no's, but as long as you can just keep rolling with it and willing to push forward, success will follow. Like it's inevitable. You just keep going, it's inevitable. So your story is awesome, by the way, and you're
Thank you.
You really are a rock star. Gosh. Okay. Well, you know, like this is, it's something I've never said before in a podcast, but I always write down like little notes as almost like a theme. Like this is what I would call the theme of this episode. And for you, I wrote down consistent plus persistent equals winning. Like that's what I got out of this. Like you are so consistent and persistent. You don't give up. You're resourceful. You stay in the game. And you've been doing this for long enough. You know, you are literally the OG of agent outreach. Like we're talking to her. This is incredible. And so, gosh, like it's been such an honor to have your time. And I know that your story is going to resonate and change so many lives. So Eva, for that, thank you so much for being on our show. So grateful.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to share.
Absolutely. Well, look, you're in sunny Florida. We know you've got some markets all over the place. How can people get in touch with you? What do you got? How can people work with you?
Yeah, and just message me on IG or TikTok. If you have any JV deals, you'll just send me the info there or whatever, and I'll text you like a link and you can submit deals or whatever. But I'm at Battypreneur on all my socials.
Heck yeah. Well, guys, we're going to link everything up in the show notes or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. And, you know, I do have one last question for you before we wrap. Eva, what is your superpower?
I don't know. I don't think I have a superpower. I tell everybody I'm normal like everybody else. Maybe it's my ADHD. It makes me obsessed with doing things.
There you go.
I have no chill. There's no chill.
I think all three of us are in the ADHD world, so maybe there's a little something in that. Well, yeah. Again, Eva, thank you so much for your time. Guys, go follow her. Her TikTok is lit, like her IG. Everything that Eva puts out there is massive value bomb. It's very short and condensed. And just follow her. Like you want to follow a winner, follow Eva Sazo. So Eva, with that, thank you so much for your time. And guys, we want you in the seat. We want to interview you next time. So go out there, keep crushing it, keep getting it done, and we'll have you on the next episode of Wholesale Elite. Till then, peace. What up, Elite fan? That's a wrap for today's episode. But look, if you got value out of the show today, do us a huge favor and give us a review or give us a like or subscribe. Do all the things to help us get the word out there. And look, we want to see you on the next show. So get out there and crush it, make it happen. Stay tuned for the next episode. Peace.